What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, shots have been fired between undefeated, unified, three-belt WBC, WBA, IBF, welterweight world champion, superstar boxer, ERROL Spence Jr., who is widely considered by many to be top two, if not top number one, definitely top five pound-for-pound best fighters in the world, with a record of 28 wins, no losses, no draws, 22 big wins by way of knockout, 32 years of age, 5 foot 9.5 with a 72-inch arm reach, and his biggest rival to date, an undefeated three-division world champion, former junior welterweight undisputed world champion, currently the reigning WBO welterweight world champion, who is widely considered by many to be the number one best pound-for-pound boxer in the world, in Terence Crawford, with a record of 39 wins, no loss, no draw, 30 big wins by way of knockout. He is 35 years of age, 5'8" with a 74-inch arm reach. Now, Terence Crawford, ERROL Spence, they make for the biggest fight in the sport of boxing currently today as it stands. And if they fight, it will be for all the marbles, seeing as though they're the only two champions in the division. And history will be on the line, as we will have the first four-belt undisputed welterweight world champion in history of the sport of boxing. With that said, ERROL Spence, he stated that he's coming back after suffering another car accident on December 10th of last year, of 2022, where ERROL Spence is going to be out the ring, as he stated, possibly to May or June for a ring return. That happened to be the same date Terence Crawford made his ring return after an extensive layoff, where Terence Crawford was out the ring for 13 months, and he fought against Armenian, Russian, welterweight star title contender David Avanesian, to which he knocked him out brutally in the 6th round of that fight. And ERROL Spence, he gave props to Terence Crawford, saying Terence Crawford always looked good. Terence Crawford is a dog. Terence Crawford is a good fighter. Okay. Now, the thing is, Terence Crawford, ERROL Spence, they was in negotiations to have a massive undisputed showdown this year. But things happened. They hit a snag, and it didn't happen this year. It was getting pushed back to this year of 2023. Okay. So it didn't happen in 2022. It's going to happen in 2023. But ERROL Spence, he has a new opponent in mind and in focus on, and that's the WBC, World Boxing Council welterweight, former unified world champion, mandatory contender for ERROL Spence Jr.'s WBC title. So with that said, looks like ERROL Spence is going to be fighting Keith one-time Thurman in May or June. But before he did that and announced it, shots have been fired. As Terence Crawford, he says, we ready for you to spin the block. As ERROL Spence stated that, it didn't matter if he fought Terence Crawford that time. He was going to spin the block after his next opponent. There's a lot of, going back and forth. Who was the reason? Who was the cause for the fight not coming to fruition? Nonetheless, this is still the biggest fight in the sport of boxing. So ERROL Spence, he stated he was going to spin the block after his next fight and after Terence Crawford fought David Avanesian. So Terence Crawford, he took to social media and he said, I'm ready for you to spin the block. ERROL Spence, he stated that, he don't do tune-ups. Okay. He made a gesture about Terence Crawford's gloves. If you don't know, in Terence Crawford fight, in between the 5th and the 6th round, in the corner, Terence Crawford gloves split, the thumb split, the side of his glove split. And, people was making a big fuss about those gloves being split. They clearly was split. They clearly was damaged. Nonetheless, he knocked out David Avanesian in the 6th round. So with that said, you can see, that ERROL Spence wants this fight. Terence Crawford wants this fight. So ERROL Spence, he states that, he don't do tune-ups, alluding to Terence Crawford doing tune-ups. Okay. And then, ERROL Spence, he have the Strap Season brand, and he put up a picture of the big fish. This was after his April 16th, Arlington, Texas, AT&T Dallas Cowboys Stadium showdown with former WBA welterweight world champion Cuban star boxer Yordenis Ugas, to which ERROL Spence, he made up a shirt with the big fish, as he refers to himself. It was a shark as the Grim Reaper, knocking on everybody's door, that being all the fighters he fought for the titles. The first door was Kell Brook with the IBF title, to which he collected that. The second door, excuse me, the second door represented Sean Porter in the WBC title, to which he picked up that belt in a unification bout. The third door represented Yordenis Ugas in the WBA belt, to which he picked up that belt. And the fourth door was closed. Okay, those doors was open with the belts hanging on the doors. The fourth door was closed, and it had it had Terence Crawford TC on the door, and he was knocking on the door. Okay, then he changed it to it being him, knocking on the door, Terence Crawford eyeballs in there peeking out, him on the phone call, calling for Terence Crawford, and Terence Crawford not answering the phone. To which somebody in Terence Crawford team, they made up they went at ERROL Spence. They made up their comeback shirts, which it has, Terence Crawford, destroying the big fish, the Grim Reaper, and having all the belts in his hand. Right. So, again, I personally believe that this fight is just getting bigger. Yes, many people, including myself, was disappointed that it didn't happen this year. It's still the biggest fight in boxing, although fans will complain and say they're tired of it. As soon as they both sign on the dotted line, every fan in the world that's a fan of the sport of boxing, and casuals as well, is going to tune in. It's still the biggest fight in the sport of boxing. I believe that this fight has just gotten bigger over this time. There's frustration for sure, but this fight has gotten bigger. Okay, Terence Crawford and ERROL Spence have not been in negotiations for 5 years, like Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao. Although Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao, everybody complained that it was too late. It is still the most lucrative. It's still the most sought out fight in the history of the sport of boxing. And everybody complained that the fight was 5 years too late. ERROL Spence and Terence Crawford have not been in negotiations for 5 years. Terence Crawford made his debut in the welterweight division in 2018. Okay, we're 5 years later. He's been in the division for 5 years now, but they have not been in negotiations for 5 years. Okay, because ERROL Spence, he suffered a brutal, tragic car accident after unifying the belt in 2019 against Showtime Sean Porter, to which ERROL Spence was out the ring for 14 months. Okay, he suffered this car accident October of 2019. He came back December of 2020. Okay, so he was out the ring for quite a bit of time, and we dealt with the global pandemic as well. Okay, so they have not been in negotiations as long as people will make it out to be. You keep in mind, ERROL Spence just unified the belt. He just picked up the WBC before suffering that horrific car accident. Okay, and Terence Crawford just fought Sean Porter in 2021 and parted ways with Bob Arum, ESPN, and Top Rank. Now, there was talks of them negotiating at that point in time towards the end of Terence Crawford's career with Top Rank, but they have not been in negotiations for 5 years. Okay, and yet everybody sought out Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather still. Now, they're not on the level of Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather. Okay, but these are two great fighters at the height of their career, in their prime, and they're both undefeated. At the time Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather fought, Manny Pacquiao had been knocked out 3 times and had multiple losses, had been outboxed by Eric Morales, and clearly dominated by Eric Morales in the first fight. So this is a completely different situation where you have these guys at the top of their game with no losses in their absolute prime. Okay, so this is still going to be the most sought out fight in boxing. And I believe it's going to happen. As ERROL Spence said, he'll revisit Terence Crawford in the fall. Okay, so it looked like ERROL Spence and Terence Crawford are going to renegotiate. So it's interesting to see what's going to be next for Terence Crawford, because ERROL Spence, we know it's the worst kept secret in the sport of boxing to know that he's more than likely going to face off against Keith Thurman, as the WBC has ordered that fight. So there's still Jerron Boots Ennis, Virgil Ortiz. It's interesting to see what's next for Terence Crawford, but this is still the biggest fight in boxing, and they will revisit it, and they will fight before the year is up. So ERROL Spence says, I don't do tune-ups. I'll see you before the year is up. Terence Crawford says, why we can't just get it on right now? Let's begin negotiations. Errol Spence says, obviously, he got other plans just like Terence Crawford did, and we'll see each other at the end of the year. And that's all I got for y'all. Make sure you hit the like button, drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV. Peace.
You're watching Blue Blood Sports TV. Wow.